The president speaks forcefully with his most emphatic denial yet of sex and lies in the Monica Lewinsky case.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never.
At the same time, Special Prosecutor Ken Starr increases the pressure on Lewinsky to testify against the president as the White House remains under fire.
This is the CBS Evening News, with Dan Rather reporting tonight from Washington.
Good evening. Here at the White House, the president's new counterattack went beyond the court of public opinion to actual court in Little Rock. This included a blistering attack, all but directly accusing Special Prosecutor Republican Ken Starr of being out to get the president in new motions in the Paula Jones case. Former White House intern Monica Lewinsky has reportedly told all, talked, but still does not have a deal for immunity from Kenneth Starr. And Hillary Clinton stands by her husband at the White House, then heads to a planned appearance in New York. Our coverage begins with CBS News White House correspondent Scott Pelley. Scott?
Dan, tonight, Monica Lewinsky's attorneys tell us that she has told prosecutors all she knows. They describe what they call a complete account of her relationship with President Clinton. But that account was given over the telephone today and was not written down. Prosecutors are still trying to decide whether they will offer immunity. This new threat came on the same day that the president finally rallied to his own defense. The president had been silent 3 days. His lawyers wanted it that way. But the political damage was rising much too fast. Today, drawn and bleary-eyed, Mr. Clinton joined the battle to save his presidency.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people. Thank you.
He turned his back on questions as the First Lady followed, applauding. The woman who could bring down the president appeared for the first time today, leaving her apartment with her lawyer. Lewinsky has indicated she will accuse Mr. Clinton of a sexual relationship, but only with a guarantee from prosecutors.
He knows that I want essentially full immunity. He knows that I want and would accept nothing less than a promise not to prosecute. So how close we are is really in his hands, not mine.
Tonight, independent counsel Kenneth Starr is considering whether to accept Lewinsky's oral statement. He had been insisting on a written version. CBS News has learned the independent counsel is investigating reports that people working in the White House spotted Mr. Clinton and Lewinsky alone in the mansion at various times. Secret Service records have been subpoenaed. The agents expect to be next. The White House strongly denies the reports.
The president's denial is quite clear that there couldn't have been that type of encounter. We've checked even with people who would have presumably been brought a report of any incident of that nature, and they categorically deny there was such an incident.
Sources tell CBS News Lewinsky was a frequent visitor to the White House long after she left the staff. Last month, she was cleared in at least 4 times, including weekends and evenings. But her welcome seems to have ended 3 weeks ago. On January 3rd, she was denied entry at the gate. And sources tell CBS News she threw a fit, screaming, "Don't you know who I am?" The president was traveling the day Lewinsky was turned away. 4 days later, she signed her sworn affidavit that she never had sex with Mr. Clinton. A grand jury is due to convene tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. The grand jury will be hearing from witnesses that include the president's friend Vernon Jordan and the president's own personal secretary. Dan?
Scott Pelley. CBS's Jim Stewart reports tonight that Special Prosecutor Kenneth Starr has gone directly to FBI Director Louis Freeh to ask for more resources. Starr wants still more FBI agents, more technical help, including assistance from the FBI Crime Lab. Also, FBI computer experts have been working to extract the memory banks from Monica Lewinsky's personal computer. The Clinton camp's latest legal counteroffensive against Starr came today in a sudden and unexpected direction. CBS News chief Washington correspondent Bob Schieffer tracked that. Bob?
Dan, just hours after the president's declaration of innocence, the president's lawyer, Bob Bennett, filed legal papers in which he suggested that the independent counsel, Kenneth Starr, has now joined forces with Paula Jones's lawyers. And he says the civil lawsuit that Jones filed against the president has become a vehicle for parties allied in an attempt to destroy the president. The Jones lawsuit is scheduled for trial in late May, but Bennett is asking now it starts sooner because he says the president is being tarred by the media, by gossip and innuendo, and that normal journalistic restraint has been abandoned by the broadcast media in the heat of competition.
We just can't continue like this forever and have every one of his decisions looked at from the angle of how it impacts on the allegations against him.
Jones' lawyers are expected to oppose an earlier trial since it would give them less time to gather evidence. As Bennett fought the legal battle, the vice president was meeting privately with Democrats on Capitol Hill. But here, as in their home districts, Democrats are keeping a certain distance.
This is not a party issue. This is a pretty personal kind of set of allegations.
Republicans, meanwhile, are still just trying to stay out of the way.
None of us are going to have any comment on the White House situation. I think that will have to sort itself out over time as facts are known.
So what kind of a reaction can the president expect to his State of the Union message? Both sides tell us it will be correct. As for later in the year, one Democrat says with Republicans seeming to want to do so little to help the president pass legislation and Democrats worried about being tarred by all of the above, Congress may spend a lot of time in recess this year. Dan?
Bob, Congress may be keen on recess, but the White House counterattack against what it considers to be a smear is now full out, full time. And First Lady Hillary Clinton is first in line leading, as CBS's Bill Plant reports. Bill?
Dan, that's right. The Clintons have potentially serious legal problems to be sure, but make no mistake about it. They believe, particularly the First Lady, that they are under all-out total political attack and it's war. And this is the enemy, independent counsel Kenneth Starr. Friends of the First Lady tell CBS News that Mrs. Clinton believes the current charges are just the latest attack in a 6-year-long political vendetta. In public, Hillary Clinton keeps smiling. This afternoon in New York, she ignored questions about her husband and talked about something the White House believes people care about, after-school child care. But she and the president have begun a behind-the-scenes counterattack. He has called to thank friends who have publicly stuck with him, telling them, when I get my side of the story out, you won't be embarrassed. The president also tells friends his strongest strategy is to be seen hard at work. CBS News has learned that the White House overnight poll numbers show some fall off in his popularity, but none in his job approval rating. The conclusion, looked like you're sticking to business. Hence today's final line from the president, I've got to get back to work. So the Clintons are in campaign mode again, and the stakes are every bit as high for them as they were in either presidential election. The First Lady's line to a friend today, this is going to break the back of one side or another. This is the last battle. Dan?
Bill Plant, thanks. The president may be helped by a public feeling that his troubles are due more to others than himself. A CBS News New York Times poll indicates a majority, 51% of Americans, feel the president's political enemies are more to blame than he is for creating the current situation. As for Special Prosecutor Republican Kenneth Starr, by nearly 5-3, people in our poll say he is conducting a partisan rather than an impartial investigation. Starr insists he is not politically motivated. Later on the CBS Evening News, correspondent Eric Ingberg runs a reality check on the prosecutor, what he has done and how he has done it. Also ahead, was the taping of Monica Lewinsky part of a plan to write a Clinton-bashing book? We'll report to you how all this is playing in the American heartland and how it's playing in Baghdad, where Saddam Hussein hopes to use the president's problems to ward off U.S. military action against Iraq. With facts, accuracy, and fairness always as our guidepost, we're trying to dig deep on our coverage of the White House under fire. As part of that, we've taken a closer look at the link between the two people who ignited this part of the story. Linda Tripp, the former Bush and then Clinton White House aide, who betrayed by secretly taping her friend, Monica Lewinsky, and Lucianne Goldberg, the one-time Nixon campaign dirty trickster who got Tripp to do the taping. As CBS's Wyatt Andrews reports, at least part of the motive may have been financial.
4 years before she began taping Monica Lewinsky, Linda Tripp, then a White House secretary, tried to sell a gossipy tell-all White House book, which she hoped would be a bestseller. The working title, Behind Closed Doors, one proposed chapter, The President's Women.
She's a personal friend.
Tripp's partner in the project was New York book agent Lucianne Goldberg, who is conservative and unabashedly anti-Clinton. Goldberg told Tripp her book idea was too tame to sell, but those in her political circle, like Michael Benjamin, knew Goldberg was searching for the expose on the president.
This is something that she was active on, that the president did have an unscrupulous history, and she was going to do something about it.
So could it be that Linda Tripp was taping Monica Lewinsky to get the raw material for a salacious book? Goldberg admits she encouraged the taping to enhance Tripp's credibility.
I can't make people believe you unless we have some kind of evidence, unless we have something they can hear, see. You have no letters, you have no pictures. It's just your word against the world.
But when I spoke to Lucianne Goldberg at length today by telephone, she heatedly denied that Tripp taped Lewinsky to make money. There is no book proposal on the table now, she told me. All I want to do is get the story out, she said. What the president did in his personal life put us in a fury. It made us ballistically angry as citizens. Still, the public portrait of Linda Tripp is that of a woman who chanced upon a story of presidential sex and lies. Now it's clear, at a minimum, she was weighing what that story was worth. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Washington.
Monica Lewinsky's lawyer and the independent counsel have been trying to strike a deal giving Lewinsky immunity from prosecution in exchange for testifying against the president. That's the reason Lewinsky talked by telephone with the special prosecutor today. Joining us now, our CBS News law correspondent, attorney Christian Jeanette Myers. Christian, is Starr under time pressure to cut a deal?
Yes, time pressure is an issue. If Monica Lewinsky changes her sworn testimony in the Paula Jones case to get immunity, well, Clinton's defense lawyer would argue she changed her story to the one Ken Starr wanted just to make a deal. Now, this happens anytime a witness is flipped by a prosecutor. But in this case, another problem for Ken Starr is the longer these immunity negotiations drag out, the better the argument that the flip was coerced and her testimony is false.
Kristen, if she gets immunity and Starr gets her to testify as he wants her to, how would Starr then use those secretly recorded audio tapes of Lewinsky?
Ken Starr could then use the tapes to bolster Lewinsky's credibility. It's something called a prior consistent statement. And basically it means the tapes could be used to show that even though she may have been pressured to testify, she's not telling a new story. Dan?
Thanks, Kristen. Now, how did Starr's Whitewater investigation, what was supposed to be an investigation of an Arkansas real estate deal, lead to an investigation of sex in the White House? A reality check is coming up. Down that way, just down from the White House, the State Department today again warned Iraq time is, quote, running out for any diplomatic solution to the standoff over UN weapons inspections. At the White House, spokesman Mike McCurry insisted there's absolutely no connection between President Clinton's Iraq policy and his current legal problems. As CBS's Vicki Mabry reports, the Iraqis are not so sure.
In Baghdad, the Clinton crisis is big news in the government-controlled newspapers. Whole pages dedicated to the story of Iraq's enemy brought low. The headlines scream the international implications of Clinton's low morals. This paper predicts Clinton will follow the plot of the movie Wag the Dog and launch an attack to distract attention from his political problems. On television, the evening news carries pictures of former intern Monica Lewinsky. Any mention of UN weapons inspectors is coupled with the words Clinton and sex scandal. In Baghdad, Clinton's approval rating with the man on the street can't get much lower.
My opinion, my thought, my idea about Clinton is to give up his duties to those who are better than him.
Some Iraqis believe President Clinton is now too weak to launch a military attack. They're happy to point out that the U.S. does not have the backing of the full UN Security Council for a strike against them. Certainly the Russians have been on record as being against the use of force. They're sending an envoy to Baghdad tomorrow who will try once again for a diplomatic solution to this standoff. Vicki Mabry, CBS News, Baghdad.
Pope John Paul returned to Rome today looking tired after a 9.5-hour flight from Cuba. During his 5-day mission, the Pope called for greater freedom for the Cuban people and denounced the U.S. economic embargo as, quote, unjust and ethically unacceptable. There's important business news tonight, and a lot of it. With profits way down, AT&T is cutting as many as 18,000 jobs. Most, it is said, through attrition and voluntary retirement. At General Motors, fourth quarter profits more than doubled. Union workers will get profit-sharing payments of about $750 each. And in a major airline alliance, Northwest is buying a stake in Continental. The Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos headed home today as thousands of fans gathered for a victory rally. More than 40 million TV households watched the Broncos hang on to upset the Packers yesterday, making it one of the highest-rated Super Bowls in the last decade. From the beginning, critics of Whitewater Special Prosecutor Ken Starr have charged he is ideologically and politically motivated in his investigation of the Clintons, that he is, quote, out to get the Clintons. Now, the question now becomes, how did Starr's investigation go from a 20-year-old failed real estate deal in Arkansas to the sex life of a 24-year-old former White House intern? We thought it was time for a reality check by CBS's Eric Ingberg.
He was hired to investigate this, the tangled Whitewater land deal. But now independent counsel Ken Starr is probing alleged sexual entanglements. Time out. How did we get from there to here? Professor Stephen Gillers, NYU Law School, who has criticized Starr in the past.
We're here looking at these situations today because of a random coincidence.
The Paula Jones lawsuit, a civil case with no tie to Starr, charges sexual harassment. Jones's lawyers were getting statements from several women on whether they had affairs with the president, including Monica Lewinsky. Meanwhile, Starr was looking into charges that Vernon Jordan, the president's good friend, had arranged lucrative jobs for Webster Hubbell to keep him from telling all he knew about Whitewater. The cases had no connection at all until Linda Tripp delivered her tapes of the Lewinsky conversations to Starr. On the tapes, Lewinsky reportedly said Jordan tried to convince her to lie in the Paula Jones case. Using Jordan as the common denominator in both cases, Starr convinced the Justice Department and 3 judges to expand his investigative powers into the possibility of perjury in the Jones case.
I don't see how Starr could have avoided following that trail to see where it leads. I think that's his responsibility.
Not everyone agrees. Some law professors say Starr is on a witch hunt, and the government almost never involves itself in a perjury case in a civil lawsuit. But Watergate led to a whole new super investigator, the independent counsel, with broad powers and no budget limits. And the modern president is now faced with the prospect of living under the eye of his own full-time permanent prosecutor. Eric Engberg, CBS News, Washington.
All of this is absolutely consuming Washington. But how is it playing beyond here, out there, in the heart of America? A report in a moment. The future of the Clinton presidency will depend not only on what happens here in Washington in the days and weeks ahead, but also on the reaction of the American public far beyond this Capitol. Bob McNamara has been sampling some of that.
Weatherford, Texas is the kind of town where even strangers get a hello. Folks follow the rules, and cowboys settle their differences in court.
It's a good town. It's a highly moral kind of town.
But newspaper publisher Mike Davis says what's happening in Washington hasn't hit the headlines or stopped the presses here.
It's going to attract everyone's attention for a while, but I don't believe we're going to stop doing our everyday business because of this one incident.
If the Clinton crisis is not making headlines here, it is firing a new kind of conversation, with Americans confronting hard questions about personal morality and the most powerful man in the world. Here, some people in business think the scandal is nobody's business.
It's not good morally, I don't guess, but as far as him running the country, I don't think it really has much to do with it.
But in the shoe repair shop, they replace heels and talk about toppling the president.
Because of his moral ethics.
Still, many people here are piecing together the story, drinking in the details, and deciding they just don't know.
I think we need to give Clinton a little time to get his side out.
Sometimes deciding they don't care.
I think it's a sad day in America when we have to spend all of our time dealing with things like this.
And here, too, there is fear that all this will eventually hurt someone.
If Clinton is not guilty, then it's a terrible tragedy to him and his family. If he is guilty, it's a terrible, terrible tragedy for the nation.
In this small town, people are weathering the scandal and waiting. They are far from Washington, and they like it that way. Bob McNamara, CBS News, Weatherford, Texas.
And that's part of our world tonight. For the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather reporting from Washington. Good night.